Welcome back, Bills Red, to another Minecraft Bedrock Edition tutorial. Now, before me, I have Silent Whisperer's Guardian Farm. This simple Guardian Farm can be used either in the Nether or the Overworld and produce around 69,000 items an hour on the max, or the high end. Now, all these items are, of course, being produced by the Guardians, either in the Overworld or the Nether, and as being items, they need to go somewhere. And so what I have designed for this video, or this tutorial today, is this insane sorter up here that will take all those items, sort them in, of course, their item type, and then bulk sort all the shards, all the crystals, and all the fish into their individual shulker boxes, which you can either choose to keep, or, for example, if you didn't want the cod at all, you can just choose to burn that cod. Now, this sorter, while it is absolutely massive, it is actually really small for all the things it is able to do. Now, of course, this system does produce around 65 to 69,000 items per hour. I got around 65,000 on average with my 24-hour test, but that can all change due to luck as you are using the looting 3 effect. Now, this entire sorter would not be possible if it wasn't thanks to the chest boat. Now, if you have not used the chest boat yet, then you are missing out. So the chest boat is, of course, a boat that you can ride in that, of course, has a chest in it, so there's a whole bunch of extra storage capabilities here. But if we're talking about sorting capabilities, the chest boat makes sorting a whole lot easier. Now, the chest boat, when its hitbox is spread across the maximum amount of blocks, it can sit right over 6 blocks. So if I put a chest boat here, it's sitting over these 6 blocks. What this gives us the capability of doing is it's able to allow 6 hoppers to take items out of this single chest boat at the same time that 6 hoppers are feeding into the chest boat. So you can have really 6 times hopper speed all feeding through this chest boat. Now, all this is fun and games until we start thinking about the capabilities of how to implement this. Whatever item that comes into any of these hoppers will, of course, flow straight down into the chest boat and will remain in here. Now, if any of the item filters directly below the chest boat is wanting that item, for example, if I put a cod in this chest boat, this hopper right here is sorting for cod. So if I simply have cod go in, that's going to go down directly in this hopper right here. And we have just sorted cod from the chest boat from any of these 6 hoppers. So whether the first, the second, the third, or all the way to the 6th hopper gets the cod, all those items will end up in the chest boat, and then eventually one of these 2 back cod hoppers will suck up that cod. And that is basically how we're doing the majority of the sorting. We're using chest boats because, of course, there's only 3 items produced by this farm. That is, of course, the shards, the crystals, and the cod. Now, this is in an ocean biome. There are other ocean mobs that can spawn in. In my testings, I have found that squids will sometimes spawn in the water streams and be killed. And of course, sometimes other animals, for example, salmon will get killed. And if you kill them with a sword, they will drop bones. And of course, glow squid as well. So the other nice thing about having chest boats here is if we have, for example, some squid dies along in this chamber and all their items flow into this hopper. Instead of it clogging up the system or breaking it somewhere, all the items will simply just remain in this chest boat. So simply, if for some reason some item that you are not sorting flows into the system, instead of burning it or destroying it, it's simply just going to remain in this chest boat right here. Then all you have to do is, after the end of your AFK session, simply go through each of the 4 chest boats, and you can find if there was any other mobs. You can simply clear these out, and basically acts as a filter for any junk items that aren't supposed to be there. This is especially useful because whether you use the nether dimension or not for this farm, if you have any nether portal set up, if any zombie piglin wander in my 24-hour test, I did actually have some zombie piglin loot get dropped and, of course, flow into the system. So it does act as a good safeguard for any of those items, which, of course, you can either burn later or collect as extra loot produced by this farm. Now, up until this point, I've been talking about the Guardian Sorter in relation to this farm in particular. Now, I do want to mention here that this Guardian Sorter is made to work with any type of Guardian farm. So whether you built the most recent one by Silent Whisperer, or whether you built an older one, or one by a different creator, then this sorter should work for that farm. You just simply might have to move some of the items around, or item tubing, simply wherever all the items are coming from. They simply need to go up, and as long as they have the correct amount of space in order to, of course, do all the sorting, then the system should work just like it does with this Guardian farm. Now, this Guardian farm in particular does have a nether mode option, which there is a slightly modified version of the sorter that works in the nether dimension. So if I simply come to the nether side, you can see all the guardians will fall down here, And then how it really works is simply the player gets an instant damage, and that of course is going to kill all those guardians. All those items are going to fall on the 6 hoppers here, and then we simply have one of these slices that is doing all the sorting. So this sorting is not going to be able to handle long AFK sessions. So for the nether dimension, if you want to build a sorter, you can, but it can only really last, I guess, 2 minutes, and then you have to give it a little bit of break for it to sort all those items, and then you can do it again. So if you want to build this for just 1 or 2 uses, then this sorter should work just fine for that. Now, the entire sorter in the overworld and nether is the exact same. The only difference is the overworld has, of course, a water stream up top made for long AFK sessions. The overworld dimension one can go for long AFK sessions. The nether one is the only one that there is a limitation to how long you can go before it's going to get backlogged, and then you have to wait a little bit for it to sort all those items, and then you are good to, of course, use the nether dimension one all over again. So how we're able to handle the sheer quantity of items is simply we have an industrial item filter made for all 3 of these items, and then we have a total of 4 of them to handle all 69,000 items per hour. Now, if your guardian farm you have built in your world produces less than 69,000 items per hour, so the guardian farm that is not this exact design here, or you just simply did not build all the slices, then you might not need all 4 of these individual slices either. So this is a very modular sorter. You don't need all the slices of this actual sorter. If your farm, for example, produces only around 30,000 items an hour, then you can probably get away with just 2 of these slices. If your farm produces more than that, then you probably want 3, and if it's going to produce more than 60,000 items an hour, then you're definitely going to want all 4 of these slices. Now, these are all estimates. You're going to have to test with your individual farm itself to see exactly what capacity it needs, but if you want to be on the safe side, just build all 4 of these slices. Now, the farm in action has not changed at all from when it was originally created. Simply all you have to do is simply turn on whatever mode you want, overworld or nether, whatever one you would prefer. Of course, all the guardians are going to spawn. You are going to see this visual glitch of their beams reaching you, but they shouldn't actually hurt you, so you don't need a regen beacon or anything like that. And then, of course, all you have to do is simply stand right here on the glowstone. You'll be in the center, and this farm does produce quite a bit of XP. In this farm, you should get around 30 levels of XP in around 60 seconds, as you can see from that blue sign right behind me. So yeah, this farm does produce quite a bit of XP, as you can see right here. And then if we simply look down the tube, you can see all the items are being collected, chest aligned, so they hover over both the hoppers, and of course being sorted real quick. And if I simply turn the system off, the XP and items are going to keep coming for a little bit because there are simply that many guardians being killed. If I simply run around here, I can see in this chest boat, all the items are flowing in here and are being sorted at a super fast speed. And this, of course, is because we have 6 item filters feeding out of this one singular chest boat. There will be a little bit of backlog, but that is why we have 4 of these, because 4 of them will handle all those items coming in. Now, as you might assume, with a farm of this size and of this capacity of items, there is quite a bit of shulker boxes used. So if you are only planning on using this for, I don't know, a couple 1 to 2 hour sessions, then you don't necessarily need to build the entire orange circuits here for all the shulker boxes, but I do recommend building this if you plan on AFKing for more than like 3 hours, because there really is that many items produced by this farm. Now, the entire system can have any number of shulker boxes loaded in from this section, and then we simply have 2 chest minecarts right here that are full of shulker boxes, and that whenever the system turns on, automatically launches them for continuously, and that's going to constantly refill all our shulker box loaders. Now, for each of the shulker box loaders, so in total, I found that I get around 18 full shulker boxes in about 8 hours, and that's counting every single one of the shulker box loaders combined output, which means every 8 hours you need to have around 18 shulker boxes available, and so that could be distributed on either side. But there is some randomness, which of these slices will get more of the items, which these slices will get less, just depending on which, of course, hoppers the items flow down and which side it favors. So this does mean that you just need to make sure to have a large quantity of shulker boxes available and need to have some excess available. Now, for testing this farm, I did do a 24-hour test, and just to give you perspective, that produced over 900 shulker boxes full of items of all the 3 types, which means you need a large array of double chests here full of shulker boxes to feed in automatically to keep the system running non-stop. What this might mean is to add in a hopper line with many more double chests to store all the shulker boxes until, of course, they make their way through the system. But this all really just depends on how long you plan on AFKing, and depending how long you do will change how big of storage you need right here at the very beginning. Now, if I simply follow my path all the way here to the bottom, I have, of course, the output, and this is where all the shulker boxes that are completely full will end up. So this is a large storage array, and I would recommend having at least 1 double chest of storage per slice per 8 hours. So if you want to do a max of a 24-hour session, just make sure you have 3 double chests for each individual slice. If you plan on AFKing for longer than that, of course, just estimate 1 double chest for every slice for every 8 hours at this farm, and you should be good to go. Of course, if you're going to just not use shulker boxes whatsoever, then you need a lot more double chests than just 3 for 8 hours, because of course the system produces a lot more items than just that. Now, the one downfall to the system is in order to make the shulker box loaders one wide, tileable, and of course reliable, where they actually break the shulker boxes is not the same. So whenever this shulker box becomes completely full and the item breaks, it will most of the time end up in the proper chest right here. Now, there is sometimes a chance that the shard shulker boxes will end up in the chest next to it on either side. So, for example, this prismarine, whenever this prismarine shulker box breaks, most of the shulker boxes will end up in the middle one, but some of them will end up on the left, and some of them will end up on the right. So this is just a downfall to this one wide tileable shulker box loader design, but it does make the system a whole lot more compact in order to just deal with this. Again, most of the shulker boxes will end up in their proper chest, but there is the few that aren't. And of course, that is just the cost of making the system this much more compact and of course cheaper to build. But that is enough said about the sorter itself. It's time to get into the tutorial. If you need a Materialism World download, both those are in the description below, along with the red subscribe button, which you haven't already. Make sure to hit the red subscribe button and like button. It helps the channel out a ton. But without further ado, let the tutorial begin. Alright, so at this point, you need to have a Guardian farm already built. If you haven't built one already, then go ahead and follow Silent Whisperer's tutorial on how to build an amazing, awesome Guardian farm. Now, if you want a sorter for the Nether Dimension as well, look down below in the description or just scroll down below till you see the Nether Dimension sorter. It's simply just one slice of this, just implemented to work with only hoppers instead of a water stream. Now, with Silent Whisperer's design, all the items all come up this tube right here, and then all the items flow up and into this tiny bit of storage, which wouldn't really last for that long with this insane farm. And then, of course, we have the on and off switch here for both the overworld and the Nether Dimension. Now, we need to keep the AFK spot in the same location, so instead of moving the player, we are simply going to move all the items further along to the right, and that will give us more room to do all the sorting in this area right here. And because this is all going to be in the air, you don't have to clear out any space, which is going to be really nice. So the first thing we're going to have to do is actually clear out space to make room to build our sorter. So we are going to end up moving these on-off switches. So I would just grab some redstone blocks or lever and just go to every single side and just make sure that the redstone lines are permanently powered on. That way, whenever we are doing modifications in the middle, we don't accidentally turn the entire farm on when, of course, we are still in the construction process. And then for the fourth corner, instead of powering the actual line itself, I'm going to power each of the wings, just like this. And this is because we are going to end up modifying this area right here. Now that we have done all this side powering, it does allow us to temporarily remove all the glass blocks right on top of our water stream. This is going to allow us to, of course, adjust the water streams, because we need to move it so all the water streams are instead going to that tube. We need to make sure all those items flow into a tube that we are going to build right over here. Now, before working down here, I do want to finish the demolition process, so you're going to want to make your way all the way up your tube where you already have the water stream, and then this entire area needs to be drained, so all the water right here simply needs to be clogged up. Put some dirt blocks or something, and to make sure all that water is completely removed, and then you can just tear this all down. We can also take down all these different hoppers and chests, and you can use these for the actual build later to save a couple resources. And then, since we already have the entire system permanently turned on temporarily with the redstone blocks, we can also therefore take down both of these switches. So, all said and done with the entire system ready to build your entire sorter, it should look something like this. So you have, of course, your AFK spot, which is where all the XP will lead on to, And then we have all the waterways exposed. That way we can redirect all our water streams from our original tube over to this side area. This is where we're going to have our new water stream. So I'm simply going to come one block over from the left of this far water stream and break 3 blocks in. We're going to have 2 of those blocks be packed ice, and the 4th one be soul soil. You're going to have a stone button on the first one there. I'm going to come back 1 block, and then here you can have ice or a normal block. It doesn't matter. We'll have a water source coming in, and then we're simply going to come out to 1, 2, 3. Third one have a button, and then a water source here. What you should see here is these 3 water sources are forcing any items that come from either direction, no matter what the momentum, to come straight back in, and then they are of course going to go over into the soul sand, just like that. Now, because this is of course in the ocean biome, there are of course fish and other mobs that can spawn in these water streams and other areas like that, so I did find it helpful to put in around 4 magma blocks just in here like this, and this will simply ensure that more, if not all, of your fish will die in this area. So now that we have this area done, we can simply move all the way back here, and we need to simply redirect all these different water streams. The easiest way is simply just break down all the different water streams going the wrong direction. So we have this water stream that's going the correct direction, so that's good. This water stream is coming the correct direction, but then we also have to edit over here. So this area you can just fill back in because we are removing this water stream here. We don't need this side outlet, and then we need all the water streams to go out this direction. Now, to make this intersection more efficient, similar to what we did down there, what I would do is I would come out 3 blocks, 1, 2, 3, have a button there, then come out 3 blocks to the right, so 1, 2, 3, have another one there, and we can simply extend this water source down another 2 blocks. Then what we're going to do is simply have 2 water sources come in from either side, just like this. And then just like that, no matter which direction the items come from, whether they are coming from the southwest or north, they will all flow down this tube and eventually make their way over in here. And of course, what's really left to do is simply finish putting this water stream back the way it was. And this one little spot here with no water flowing shouldn't be an issue. All the items should have enough momentum that they should get right on past that. Once you have done all this and all the water has been redirected, you can throw a couple items at each end just to make sure that all the items end up into that central area where we're going to have the new water stream or tube. And then all you have to do is simply put the lids or caps onto all of these. And if you want to at this point, you can go ahead and put the redstone dust back on top, but we are going to be doing a little messing around with the redstone systems that were up here originally, so I would just recommend to just hold the redstone dust off until the very end. Now, coming all the way back here to where we actually got the tube, of course we got all the water flowing right on into this area. This is of course where we're going to create a bubble elevator so all the items fly up. Now, in order to do this, we are going to build 29 blocks up on all 4 ends, and I am doing this with glass so I can see the items. I do recommend doing this with glass, that way if there is an issue or for some reason the bubble stream is not working, you can very easily identify where the problem is. So anyhow, just go ahead and create this bubble elevator going all the way up 29 blocks. And you will know when you're exactly 29 blocks up with your water stream because the roof or the phantom protection roof of your AFK spot should be exactly 2 blocks above this tube. And then whenever we put the lid on, it should be right here, exactly 1 block below where the roof of your AFK spot should be. Just to give you perspective of where this tube is relative to, of course, where you are AFKing. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come out to 1 block, and that's going to put us right in the middle with our AFK spot, and then we're going to come in a total of 3 blocks, so 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to have a packed ice block here, then you're going to have 6 temporary blocks coming in just like this. So we're going to have another packed ice, and then I'm going to go another 6 temporary blocks. And just like that, that should take you all the way up to your AFK spot. Now, these purple blocks we put in earlier is basically the outline of where our hoppers need to be. So we simply come down and we make simply a 2 wide temporary block gap, just like this. And then we break all our original ones. Right here, we can have a total of 12 hoppers facing straight down. There's the first 6, and then here we can have the next 6. And you want to do this for both this slice and the next slice. Once you're done, your hoppers should look something like this. Next, if we simply come all the way up here to the AFK spot, we can have a button right here. Then you want to grab your walls, and we're going to have a wall on the left-hand side of where our hoppers are. And this basically allows the items to straddle over both the hoppers at the same time to allow us to sort the items a whole lot faster and, of course, get them going in the system as quick as possible. And then right here at the end with 2 blocks left, we're going to have a double chest, and this is going to chest align all our items right up against that line, so it's floating between the 2 different hoppers at the same time. Then what we're going to do is simply put a wall around the entire thing. So you're going to need 2 blocks there, and then simply extend all along the other end just like this. Once you have done that, we can simply come all the way back down this tube that we done earlier, and you just need to make sure that there is a water source on every single layer. That way the bubble elevator will push the item all the way up to the top. Once you have done this, all the items should be floating all the way up to the top, and one more should push those items right into that chest align them, and push them down the stream. Now, the water stream is not going to make it all the way to the end. So on each of our ice blocks we put down, we're going to have a button, and then we're going to have a water source on top of this hopper. Now, if you simply right-click the hopper, that will waterlog it. So if I simply put a hopper here and right-click, you see it waterlogs it. We don't want to do that, and because that could potentially break whatever redstone is right underneath it. So make sure to place that water source right up against that glass block you have to the side, and we'll do one more water source here. And just make sure you have a button right there. Then all you have to do right here is simply close the entire system up with some glass blocks right over top to make sure no items fall in and no items get out that are already in it. And right like that, that is your entire water stream all done. Now before getting into the building of the sorter, we do want to make sure that the sorter is completely clean or empty at the very beginning, because one stray item can actually ruin the system on the setup process. So in order to ensure that, what I would recommend is just go ahead and clog up this tube right here. So if any items flow up in here, or for example cod or fish, that doesn't actually go into the system, and that will simply make sure that no stray items accidentally fall into your system while you're in the middle of building it. So now it is time to actually build the core of the system, and that is going to be the chest boat item sorter. So this is going to sort out all our 3 main different types of items that we are farming from this Guardian farm. That is, of course, the prismarine shards, crystals, and cod. Whether you want to keep any or all of those items or not, you still need to sort them out here. After this point is when we can burn them later, which I will show how to do that later in this video. So this is basically the same system that goes in the Nether, which of course I'll show in just a quick moment. But what you need to do is you simply need to come right off here to the side, just 2 blocks down and 1 block over, right like this. Now, I'm just going to show how to do a single chest boat section, which is going to be a total of 3 blocks long, because that's the max space that chest boat can cover over 3 hoppers. And then you simply repeat this another 3 times to cover all 4 of them. And then if you build a smaller or less efficient Guardian farm, then you can build 2 or 3 or however many of these you want for your Guardian farm. Now, I have these 3 blocks over here, so I'm simply going to come over and have 3 hoppers going into those in the side, like that. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side, so come over 2 blocks, temporary blocks all right there, and then I'm going to have simply 3 hoppers going directly into each of those blocks. This is going to set up basically our item filter. Now we're going to have 2 fences right on the edge like that. We're going to have our chest boat right in the center of our hoppers, and then we're going to have 2 fences right here in the end. If you can't place them in, no worries, just simply hop in the chest boat, scoot it forward so it's all right up against the fences, hop out, and then you should be able to put 2 fences right here. This simply makes sure that this chest boat is always able to pick up from all 6 of those hoppers right above them at the same time. Then what we're going to do is we are going to simply put a block underneath each of those and a block to the side of each of those temporary blocks, break the temporary blocks, and then on top of each of these we're going to have a comparator. Now these comparators are going to go into a simple item filter. So this is going to be a glass block there with 2 solid blocks right on either side like this. Redstone dust on all 3 of those. Then you're simply want to grab a target block. We're going to have a target block right here with a redstone torch. Then underneath each of these, we're going to have a downward facing hopper that is going to go straight into a barrel. And then from this barrel is where we can take all our items to either a massive storage array, or like I will show later, you can hook this straight up into a 1-wide tileable shulker box loader. Now this is simply just 1 slice that goes for every single one of the sides of this chest boat. So we have the first one here, and you're going to extend it over another 2 times. So you have a total of 3 on this end, and then you're going to want to do the exact same thing on this end, having another 3 on this side as well. Now once you have all 6 of those simple item filters done, you do want to go ahead and preset each of those item filters. Now you're going to want to have 2 of each of the items that is produced, so the crystals, the shards, and the cod. Now, it doesn't matter exactly where you put them in. You could have 2 crystals over here, for example, a shard on each side and 2 fish on the other. You could simply have 1 of each on each side. It doesn't matter exactly how you want to do it. All the directions like this will work. Once you have figured out exactly where you want each of the items to be sorted, simply go into the top hopper of each of these systems right underneath the chest boat. And for example, here I want to have the shard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place in 1 shard right there. and then 4 items that you can either rename or just an item that's never going to come in the system. For example, sticks, they're never going to come through the system. And then I simply move on to the next one, and I know this one is going to be my prismarine crystals, and I put 4 of the random item that's never going to come through the system. And you're simply going to have to do that for every single one of these hoppers, and then of course it is time to repeat this system another 3 times for each of the 4 slices. And once you have all your sorters in place, it should look something like this. So again, this is going to be a total of 4 of these chest boat slices, and you're going to have 2 of each of these sorters for each. So in each of these, there should be 2 cod, 2 crystal, and 2 shard sorters, which means they're going to get a total of 8 sorters for each of the different types of items within these 4 different sorters. So now that we have finished the entire storage system, it is time for us to put in our shulker loaders. Now for the storage, you don't need shulker loaders, you only need it if you're going to be running at this farm for more than 1 or 2 hours. And if you're just going to be running for 1 or 2 hours, then simply just come straight down here, just grab some double chest, have them just coming straight down like this. Make sure you have plenty for every single one, and then just hook the entire thing up with some hoppers. This will take care of the basic storage system if you only plan on running this farm for like an hour or 2. Any more than that, then I would highly recommend you put in these automatic shulker loaders. What the shulker loaders will do is they will put all the items of the same type all together in the same shulker box. That way you're able to store the items in much larger quantities. So now, in order to do this, what we're going to do is we're simply going to come straight down and then have a double chest to the side. Now, this is going to be the same for absolutely every single one of these slices. So for every single one, just come straight down 1, and then you're going to have, of course, a double chest just like this. Now, these 1 wide tileable shulker box loaders are not exactly 1 wide. They are actually 2 wide, but they are compatible enough that you can have 2 directly next to each other. So there's going to be 2 slightly different, and then you simply repeat those 2 for the next 2, and then for the next 2. So you're simply going to have 3 of these packs of 2 of the shulker box loaders, and you're going to have that for each one of these little segments of 6 on both sides. So how we're going to do this is we are going to simply grab 2 sticky pistons, face them directly straight down on the edge of those double chests. There we're going to have hoppers facing straight down, and then we will have 2 hoppers going directly into each of those 2 hoppers. Then coming around to the other side, we are going to grab our dispensers, and we're going to have 2 dispensers underneath those hoppers. And so right here, we are simply going to have these dispensers dispense our shulker boxes, and these hoppers load the items into the shulker boxes. Then we are simply going to come out 2 blocks right here, and right here we're going to have 2 solid blocks, and then you can have 2 any random blocks you don't care there, and then 2 other blocks right there. And then right here is where we're going to have 2 comparators, and both these comparators can be on normal mode. Now these comparators are going to be detecting whenever the shulker box is completely full. In order to do that, we are going to have to do some calculations that requires a 2 wide space in order to do this. So in order to separate these 2 wires from each other, we're going to have one go down and the other one go up. So the first one here is going to go down. So what we're going to do is have a solid block come down 2 blocks. Right here, we're going to have a bit of a redstone dust. That is going to go right into a comparator right here. This comparator needs to be on normal mode, and that's going to go straight into a solid block right there with a redstone torch on top of it. Then coming off to the side right here, you're going to have a solid block with redstone dust, and then a lever or some sort of other power source to have this line constantly powered. Now basically what happens is whenever the shulker box is completely full, this comparator will give signal strength of 15, and now will turn off the torch, and that is going to cause this sticky piston to break the shulker box. Now from this torch, we're going to come up 1 block and have another torch. Then you're going to have a dropper facing in from that torch. We're going to have a hopper right there, and then right here we are going to have a glass block with a comparator just like that, and a solid block. That way the comparator can detect when any item is in that hopper. And then in the dropper, you need to have 1 item that you do not care about that you will never see again. And right there, that is one of our 2 shulker box loaders. Now if we come around to the other side, we're going to put in this one. And this is going to be, instead of going down, it's going to go up. So we'll have a block right here with a redstone dust. We're going to have 2 blocks right here with a comparator and a repeater, just like this. Then we're going to have a solid block here. Then you're going to grab your lever, have a lever right there, have a repeater facing in, and then a redstone dust just right there. Then from this repeater right here, we're simply going to have a solid block with a redstone torch, come up 1 more block, and then we're going to have another redstone torch facing in. That's going to go into a solid block with a repeater, and that repeater is going to go in straight into another solid block. Then right here, you can have a solid block with a comparator, and then right here, we're going to have a dropper with another hopper. And then in this dropper, just make sure you have, again, 1 item you don't care about that you will never see again. Then all that's left to do is simply put some sort of glass or solid block on top of each of these hoppers to make sure no item accidentally falls in there, because that could accidentally trigger the system early. So the system that we just finished right here is a 2-wide tileable design that will simply detect whenever a shulker box is completely full and break it. Now we need to make the second part of the system that's going to detect whenever the shulker box is broken, and then it's going to dispense a new one. Now how we're going to do this is we're going to have 2 temporary blocks right here with 2 downward facing hoppers. Then we're going to have 2 slabs, and each of these slabs is going to be the upper half of a block just right here. And then we're going to have 2 comparators coming straight out like that, and each of those comparators are going to go into solid blocks. Then we're going to have 2 bits of redstone dust right there, and 2 target blocks right there. Then that's all that's left to do is to, of course, break our temporary blocks and to create a storage area where all our full shulker boxes will be held. And this storage system, you can, of course, expand to as big or as small as you want. I would just estimate that you need about 1 double chest for every 8 hours you plan on running at this machine at one time. And that is this 2-wide tileable shulker box loader complete. Now what you got to do is simply repeat this design another 11 times. So 5 more times on this side, and another 6 times on the other side, just flipping the entire design. And when you flip this design on the other side, then the 2 bits of redstone dust should connect right here in the middle, just like this. Now before you build all the shulker box loaders, it is worth noting that if you are not interested in keeping the cod, and instead you are more interested in burning the cod and only keeping the shards and crystals, then there's an easy way to do this. So instead of building the actual loader at that slice, since this chest right here is my cod chest, what I'm going to do is from this double chest, I'm going to come down 1 hopper. That's going to go straight into a dropper instead of a dispenser, and that's going to go into a cauldron with lava in it. Now on top of this cauldron, we are going to have a comparator, and that comparator is going to go straight into a downward facing sticky piston. Now this sticky piston is going to have an observer facing the other direction, just like this, and then we're going to have an observer facing the opposite direction right underneath that cauldron. Then we're going to have a simple solid block right here, and then I would go ahead and connect this up with the redstone dust back here. This will simply keep all your redstone dust connected, and this won't actually break the system, but instead will add it as a safeguard to always make sure that there is a shulker box placed here, regardless if there's a lag spike or anything. So having a redstone dust here won't break your system, it will actually just make it more reliable. And that right there is all you need in order to have an auto dispensing system that'll simply take all your items and automatically dispense it into this cauldron that will burn all those items to oblivion. That way you don't have to worry about sorting or storing any of those items. Once you have all your shulker box loaders in place, it should look something like this. Now once the shulker boxes are broken, we do want to make sure that we actually pick them up in the hoppers. So what you do want to do is go around and just place a little bit of a wall here in order to ensure that when the shulker boxes break, they have to go in those hoppers. And you're going to need to have 3 of those on each side. There's going to be 1 that you need to do in the center area, and then of course you need to do 1 on either end. And you're going to need to do this for both halves. So 1 on this side, and then we're also going to do it once over here. Now whenever the shulker boxes are broken, they are of course going to come all the way down here, and because we use slabs, you should have easy access to all 3 of the double chests we put in place. Now that is for the output. The input of the shulker boxes is going to be right here in this channel. Now in order to get easy access to this, I'm going to go ahead and remove half of each of these double chests. That way we can actually walk through here. So now with this area all cleared out, it is a lot easier in order to actually put in all our rails. So we are going to need powered rails right here at the beginning. So this powered rail is going to come all the way in, and then we're going to have powered rails here in the middle as well. Now for this system, we are going to really have 2 separate rail lines. We're going to have 1 to the right hand side and 1 to the left hand side. And this is just to basically avoid any turning or any possible issues that we may run into. And it also just keeps the entire rail line a lot simpler. Now this first beginning circuit over here will get powered on and off whenever the entire farm is running, but we do need to make sure to have the middle and back turned on at all times. For the back, it's a little bit easier. All you have to do is use some levers in order to power those rails. Now be careful and make sure that you power this block and not this block. If you power this block, you will lock those hoppers right there, and that will cause your very first shulker box loaders to, of course, never be stocked with shulker boxes and never to actually work. Now, for the middle ones right here, the easiest way to do this is simply come up 1 block like this. We'll have redstone dust and just have a lever on one side. This will power the rails underneath, but of course not lock the hoppers. And then once you have all the rails in, you are free to come back in here and replace all the double chests. Just make sure they link up properly and they're going to their corresponding hopper underneath. And linking of the chest is something you do need to make sure you do on both sides of the sorter. Once you have that in place, you can simply come all the way back around here, and we're going to have 2 chest minecarts. And just send them off on their first forage, just to make sure that the rail line has enough power and that they are able to get there and come back. Once they're back, you can go ahead and temporarily break them, because we don't need them quite yet. Now what you're going to do is grab your hoppers. We're going to have a hopper line going into each of these rail lines, into the side, just like this. Now, this storage area over here for shulker boxes really just depends on how long you're AFKing. The longer you AFK, of course, the more shulker boxes you are going to use. Just to give you perspective, when I ran this farm non-stop for 24 hours, I got around 900 shulker boxes of items used. So that means that you need to make sure to have a stockpile of at least 900 for 24 hours. So this storage system that you have here to, of course, hold all your shulker boxes, it's probably going to vary in size depending on how long you are actually AFKing. But the nice thing about doing something in this design right here, where we are sharing the shulker boxes between all the slices, if, for example, these back slices don't use their shulker boxes as much, they won't have a lot of backlog of shulker boxes in there. All those shulker boxes will therefore be redirected to the slices that are actually using the shulker boxes. So I have this little system right here, so this is a total of 5 double chests worth of shulker boxes, and I can just fill this up, and this would be good for a couple hours worth of AFKing here at this farm. And of course, if you need more storage, then just extend this farther out, as much storage as you need. Now this is really a great time to put in a couple shulker boxes into the system, just to make sure that the system is, of course, distributing the shulker boxes correctly and that all your shulker box loaders work. So I'm just going to put in 2 double chests worth of shulker boxes, and those are all going to flow into this storage system right here. Now that all of my shulker boxes have been loaded, if I simply turn on the system real quick, I'm simply distributing all the shulker boxes along those dispensers to make sure each of them have a couple shulker boxes within them. Now if I was to come and take a lever directly underneath it, basically how to kickstart the entire system is just flick all the systems on underneath using a lever. And you can see just like that, all the dispensers fired a shulker box. If you heard any clicking when flicking that lever once, then that means there's probably a dispenser around here that did not have any shulker boxes in them. If they didn't, then that means of course it couldn't dispense any, and you want to load in a couple more shulker boxes into the system. And once all those shulker boxes have been placed once, then your system is primed and ready for items to flow through. So now that we have the bulk of the sorter done, it's time to put the farm back together. Now one of the first things we did was we removed the on-off switch, which we need to replace that as well as hook that up to the sorter itself. Since it has these minecarts that need to go automatically, we want those to go as soon as the actual farm turns on, and we want it to turn off as soon as the farm turns off. So if you simply come up here to the AFK spot, we'll turn to our left, then we'll come out 1 block, and then 1 more. We'll come 2 blocks from there, and right here we'll have our downward facing sticky piston. Now you can break both of those temporary blocks, and then you can put a lever on the sticky piston, and this is going to be your on-off switch. Now it's the exact opposite what you think, so down is off, up is on. So the easy way to actually remember that is just put a redstone torch in the back with a redstone lamp. So now with that lamp, you can easily see that when it's up, the farm is on, and when it's down, the farm is off. And the same goes for our nether system, which we will have 1 block away over here. We can do the exact same thing here with a lever, and then a redstone torch with a redstone lamp right on top. You can see right now the nether system is on. When we flick the lever down, it's off. Have both the pistons flicked off so that the pistons are extended at their full reach. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go from our right sticky piston, so our overworld sticky piston, and we're going to come down a total of 7 slime blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which it looks like I actually put this chest too close to it. So what you would need to do is simply move this chest to one of the directions, just to make sure that the chest is not directly next to the slime block. If it is, then that chest will move anytime this sticky piston is activated. Then coming back down to the bottom of our slime block line, here we have 7 slime blocks. The 8th block is going to be a redstone block. Then we're going to have a downward facing sticky piston. Now coming off the side of this, we're going to have a redstone torch. That's going to go straight into a solid block. 1 more redstone torch, solid block, and then we're going to have 1 more redstone torch right off the side of that. Now, if you had redstone dust right on top of here, basically anytime the system turns on, this redstone block will lift up, turning off this piston, and that will basically activate it so that both these minecart chests will go, and they will start distributing all the shulker boxes to wherever they are needed. Then if you grab your slime blocks one more time and head down to your bottom sticky piston, we'll come down another 9 slime blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to have a redstone block right here. Then you can have a solid block right here with a redstone repeater going right there. And that can go into a solid block. Now we will be right back here in a moment, but first we're going to head all the way back up and set up our nether sticky piston right here. So we're going to do the exact same thing we did earlier. We're going to come down a total of 7 slime blocks. Then we're going to have a redstone block here with a downward facing sticky piston. And then from this sticky piston, we're only going to need 6 slime blocks. So there's 6 slime blocks there, redstone block right there. And then we're going to have a block here. We can turn this to a solid block. And then we're going to have a repeater just like that. Now we can simply go back through and see where we need to fix the redstone lines. So because all the redstone lines are used to coming from this direction, not from this direction, we are going to need to switch this up. Simply switch it so the repeater is facing in. You can save a bit of redstone dust by switching that out, and then replace both those blocks with the 2 bits of redstone dust. Now you just need to go all the way down. You can see, oh, there's a breakage here. Fix that. See, if I was to remove this redstone block, it wouldn't actually make it all the way. You can see it just burnt out there. So if I simply put a solid block, a repeater, and then another solid block, and then I can break my redstone block, you can see it continued to power. You simply need to do this for all the sides just to make sure that the redstone signal strength can be reached all the way. And of course, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and remove your power sources, whether redstone blocks or levers you had floating around. So the entire farm should still be off because we have the farm off up there, but now we can control it once again with our levers. Now there's only a couple things left to do before the entire farm is ready. What I would recommend, especially if you're building this in survival, which I'm assuming you are, you probably want to go ahead and come down here and make a nice walking path. That way you have easy access to where all your shulker boxes will end up. This is basically your storage container, your storage unit, your storage area where all your shulker boxes will end up. Now, of course, you want to, again, make sure that you have plenty of shulker boxes in these chests to make sure your system can run as long as possible. The only other thing that you really need to do is come all the way back over here, and earlier we removed 1 water source just to make sure that the fish or any other items did not come into our system while we were still working. Now at this point you can go ahead and put the water source back and put the glass block back, and you should be good to go. I would recommend just doing, like, I don't know, a 20-minute test just to see if all items are flowing in. If you ever want to double check, you can of course come through, look at the boats at any time, and of course there is going to be junk items randomly coming into these chest boats, so after every other or every couple AFK sessions, it is a smart idea to go through and collect all the items out of the boats. Now you can see that the system is still sorting even after it's stopped, because the sorter sometimes gets backlogged in these hoppers, but that is why we have a total of 4 of these chest boat systems. It's because if one is backlogged and needs to clear itself out, then the other one can take over the vast majority of the items while the first one takes care of that. And if we simply come down here, we can see that the first couple shulker boxes have started to get their items put into the shulker boxes, and of course the entire system is starting to fill up very quickly. But that is really all there is to it. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the video out a ton. But this has been Rock Builder, and I'll see you all in the next video.